The Game: Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists by Neil Strauss. Picture this: a house in complete chaos. Doors hanging off their hinges, walls bearing the imprints of desperate fists, and there on the living room floor lies the world's greatest pickup artist, a man known only as Mystery, sobbing uncontrollably. For 2 solid days, his towering 6'5" frame has been oscillating between violent outbursts and soul-crushing despair. This isn't your typical bad breakup. This is a full-blown mental collapse. And witnessing this entire meltdown is a young writer who stumbled into this bizarre underground world, searching for answers to one of humanity's oldest puzzles, only to find himself staring into the void. What you're about to experience is completely true. This is the story of a hidden brotherhood of men who devoted themselves to transforming seduction into something resembling rocket science. They called it The Game. The man who chronicled this strange universe, Neil Strauss, didn't just observe from the sidelines. He dove in headfirst, reinventing himself from an anxious, self-doubting journalist into Style, one of the planet's most legendary pickup artists. His adventure swept him from obscure internet forums into the exclusive back rooms of Hollywood nightclubs, from celebrity mansions to the murkiest depths of male insecurity. His book, The Game, flew off shelves by the millions, becoming a cultural lightning rod that fundamentally shifted how an entire generation approached dating and attraction. But here's the thing: this isn't some shallow manual of manipulative tactics. It's really about our universal hunger for human connection, the magnetic pull of forbidden knowledge, and one man's quest to figure out who he actually is. By the time we're done here today, you'll understand the invisible social dynamics humming beneath every interaction around you. You'll learn how a bunch of overlooked guys essentially hacked the attraction code, and the shocking, sometimes dark consequences they faced. Most crucially, you'll discover what Neil Strauss learned through painful experience, that winning the game and actually winning at life are 2 completely different achievements. Let's dive in. Our journey begins with a guy who freely admitted he was nobody's idea of a catch. Neil Strauss worked as a writer for the New York Times and Rolling Stone, traveling with rock legends like Marilyn Manson and Motley Crue. He had backstage access, rubbed shoulders with people most folks only see on screens, and yet he was desperately lonely. He labeled himself an average frustrated chump. Short, thin, balding glasses, the whole package. He'd watch his buddy Dustin work his magic with women at bars, seemingly without effort, and it baffled him completely. Some guys just had it, he figured, and he definitely didn't. This gnawing sense of inadequacy, this persistent "why not me," is something plenty of guys secretly carry around. It's that quiet frustration, the feeling that everyone else got the instruction manual except you. For Neil, this feeling was his constant shadow, until a phone call turned everything upside down. An editor had discovered something peculiar circulating online: the Lay Guide, short for the How to Lay Girls Guide. This was a collection of field notes, theories, and battle reports from a secret online tribe calling themselves pickup artists, or simply PUAs. These weren't smooth-talking jocks or Hollywood heartthrobs. They were computer nerds, magicians, guys selling real estate, totally ordinary dudes claiming they'd cracked the seduction code. They had their own vocabulary, their own principles, their own mythical heroes. The editor wanted Neil to transform this underground document into a mainstream bestseller. Neil was honestly skeptical. He wanted to craft serious literature, not a how-to guide for desperate guys. But as he started reading, something clicked. This wasn't just cheap pickup tricks. It was an obsessive deep dive into social psychology, evolutionary biology, and what makes people tick. These men had dissected every microsecond of human interaction, from that first glance across a crowded bar to the intimate moments that followed. They had terminology for everything. The woman you're pursuing is your target. Her friends are obstacles. Going out to meet women is sarging. Neil realized he couldn't report on this world from a safe distance. He needed to jump in. He needed to become one of them. His mission crystallized: find the world's greatest pickup artists and absorb their secrets. His quest led him to the most mythical figure of them all, Mystery. Mystery was a Canadian magician who, after losing his virginity embarrassingly late at 21, decided to apply the same obsessive focus he used for card tricks to understanding women. He spent an entire decade practically living in bars, clubs, and coffee shops, testing hypotheses, bombing spectacularly, and gradually refining his approach until he developed what he called the mystery method. It was essentially a blueprint for human connection. Step 1, identify your target. Step 2, approach and start the conversation. Step 3, demonstrate your value. The system went on and on, a detailed flowchart for something most people think should be spontaneous. Neil, hungry for transformation, pulled $500 from his account and enrolled in Mystery's inaugural live workshop in Los Angeles. Walking into that hotel lobby, pockets stuffed with gum, a notepad, and condoms, Neil describes feeling utterly pathetic. Signing up for something like this is admitting defeat at one of life's most basic challenges. There, he encountered his fellow students. Sweater was a balding 40-something who'd flown in from Australia, clearly wealthy but visibly trembling with insecurity. Extra Mask was a 26-year-old virgin who'd never even held hands with a girl. Neil, with his grand total of 6 romantic partners, suddenly felt like a seasoned veteran. Mystery gathered them and unveiled his method's core principles. First up was the 3-second rule. When you spot someone you want to approach, you've got 3 seconds max. Wait any longer, and your brain spirals into overthinking, nervousness builds, and you'll either chicken out or come across as creepy and calculated. Then came peacock theory. To attract the most desirable potential partner, Mystery explained, you need to stand out visually, like an actual peacock displaying its plumage. For humans, this meant wearing something eye-catching or unusual, a vibrant shirt, an odd hat, glowing jewelry. It's designed to make women notice you first, sometimes even approach you. The third concept, perhaps his most infamous, was the neg. A neg isn't exactly a compliment, but it's not quite an insult either. It's a playful tease or backhanded observation. Something like, "Nice dress. I saw 3 other women wearing it tonight." Or, "Your nails look great. Are they real?" The purpose, Mystery taught, was to gently chip away at a beautiful woman's inflated confidence. Women accustomed to constant praise become numb to compliments. A neg signals that you're not intimidated by her looks, that you have standards, and that she needs to earn your approval. Armed with these bizarre new tools, Neil and his classmates ventured into actual nightclubs. What he witnessed that first night completely shattered his understanding of reality. He watched Mystery approach a group that included Scott Baio from Happy Days. Mystery's target was Baio's gorgeous date. But instead of talking to her, he completely ignored her and focused on entertaining Scott Baio and his friend with magic tricks, making a $40,000 watch mysteriously stop and start. The more he ignored the beautiful woman, the more desperately she wanted his attention. When he finally acknowledged her, he was already in. 10 minutes later, Mystery walked out with her phone number. He'd just stolen a girl from a celebrity, right under everyone's noses. Neil realized this wasn't just theory. This stuff actually worked. Over the following months, Neil's metamorphosis began. He adopted his PUA identity, style. He started hitting the clubs every single night, practicing relentlessly. But he recognized that Mystery's approach was just one piece of a larger puzzle. He needed to find the other masters of this hidden art. He tracked down Ross Jeffries, arguably the godfather of the entire community, who'd launched it back in the late 80s. Jeffries created speed seduction, a method based on controversial hypnosis techniques called neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. While Mystery manipulated social situations, Jeffries aimed to manipulate the subconscious mind itself. He used hypnotic speech patterns and anchoring, linking a physical gesture, like touching his collar, with an emotion like attraction, to forge instant, powerful connections. Ross Jeffries actually inspired Tom Cruise's character in Magnolia, that over-the-top seduction guru Frank Mackey. Jeffries saw mystery as a rival, and style as a potential convert. Style also connected with David D'Angelo, a good-looking real estate agent teaching something called cocky and funny. The philosophy was to playfully tease women with confident arrogance, never giving straight answers, keeping them constantly guessing. If a woman asked what you did for work, you wouldn't say, accountant. You'd say something ridiculous like, professional hopscotch player, or white slave trader, always delivered with a mischievous grin. Then there was Juggler, a street performer who taught that you shouldn't interrogate people with questions. Instead, make statements. Rather than asking, where are you from? You'd say, you strike me as someone from the Midwest. This creates conversation instead of interrogation. Style became obsessed with absorbing everything. He locked himself away for an entire week, devouring books on body language, magic, handwriting analysis, and female psychology. He got laser eye surgery to ditch his nerdy glasses. He started hitting the gym, following Mystery's advice. He even shaved his head completely. Neil Strauss was gradually disappearing, and style was taking his place. His existence became this strange split between theory and practice. During the day, he studied hypnotic techniques from shadowy figures like Steve P., who claimed he could give women orgasms with just his voice. At night, he prowled clubs with his new crew of wings, like Grimble and Two-Timer, testing conversation starters like, hey, my buddy just got invited on the Maury Povich show to meet his secret admirer. Should he actually go? It's not lying, Mystery had reassured him. It's flirting. As Style's abilities sharpened, his adventures became increasingly wild. He and Mystery flew to Belgrade to run a workshop. There, in a country filled with battle-hardened ex-soldiers, Mystery's flamboyant outfits and magic tricks were so alien, they might as well have been superpowers. In one terrifying moment, Mystery faced down a Serbian mobster who pulled an actual pistol after Mystery got his girlfriend's number. Instead of backing down, Mystery told him, you watched me move that beer bottle without touching it. Imagine what I could do to a single brain cell in your head. The mobster, stunned and confused, actually lowered his weapon. Style's own skills were reaching remarkable heights. His breakthrough moment came during a Miami workshop. He approached two platinum blonde women who were, in pickup artist terminology, perfect tens. They'd been brutally rejecting every guy all night. But Style didn't compliment them. He ignored one completely and delivered perfectly calibrated negs to the other. Is that your real hair? He asked, actually tugging on it. He told them they looked like weird little snowflakes. When one got offended, he didn't apologize. He reframed the entire interaction, explaining that beauty is common, but genuine personality is rare. He had them mesmerized. Within 30 minutes, he was making out with one of them. He'd executed a flawless pickup from beginning to end, and his reputation in the community exploded. He wasn't just a student anymore, he'd become a master. And here's where things get complicated. The mission was accomplished. Neil Strauss, the average frustrated chump, had vanished. Style, the master pickup artist, had taken his place. Women were no longer mysterious. They were a formula to be solved. But a new, messier problem was emerging. The community was exploding exponentially. Guys from every corner of the globe were dropping thousands of dollars on workshops. The secret society wasn't remotely secret anymore. At the center of this expanding universe, Style and Mystery decided to create a headquarters, a pickup artist mecca. They rented a massive mansion in the Hollywood Hills, Dean Martin's former estate, and christened it Project Hollywood. It was supposed to be pickup artist paradise, a place where they'd build such an attractive lifestyle that women would naturally gravitate to them. The house filled with a rotating cast of characters. Papa, a business-savvy student who managed operations. Herbal, a quiet, wealthy professional gambler. Playboy, a nightclub promoter. plus a constant stream of students, hopefuls, and hangers-on. For a while it genuinely felt like paradise. They threw legendary parties, brought women home constantly, and lived in their own self-created bubble. The house became a laboratory for social experiments. Style even discovered what he called the secret to threesomes, with a technique he dubbed the dual induction massage. The community franchised globally, with Project Austin, Project San Francisco, and Project Sydney sprouting up everywhere. They felt invincible. But the foundation was shaky. This was a house full of men whose entire self-worth depended on female validation. And their egos, previously suppressed, were now completely unleashed. A young, ambitious pickup artist named Tyler Durden moved in. He and Papa launched a competing company, Real Social Dynamics, teaching their own variation of the game, often in the same house, to the same students as Mystery. The brotherhood splintered into warring factions. The mansion became a battlefield of egos, manipulation, and psychological warfare. Then Katya entered the picture. She was a petite Russian party girl Mystery met during a workshop. Within 3 weeks, in a manic burst of passion in Las Vegas, he married her. Katya moved into Project Hollywood, bringing playful energy into a house of intense, analytical men. But the fairy tale soured quickly. Mystery, a master of pursuit, had zero idea how to maintain an actual relationship. He grew emotionally distant, spending entire days playing video games. Feeling neglected, Katya started flirting with other guys in the house. Eventually, she began a relationship with Herbal, Mystery's closest friend. When Mystery discovered them together, it triggered a complete psychological meltdown. The man who'd built an empire understanding female attraction was destroyed by the one thing he couldn't control: genuine human emotion. This brings us full circle to where we started: Mystery on the floor, sobbing, threatening suicide. Style, once his student, was now his caretaker, driving him to a psychiatric facility. The legendary guru was broken. The house was imploding, torn apart by the very dynamics they'd tried to master. Amid this chaos, Styles' old life came knocking. He landed an interview with Tom Cruise, who'd actually read his article about the pickup community. He spent days with Courtney Love, who moved into Project Hollywood seeking romantic advice from the pickup artists. He even used his techniques during an interview with Britney Spears, breaking through her media-trained facade to create a moment of authentic connection. But these glimpses of the outside world only highlighted how toxic his own had become. He was surrounded by what he called social robots. Guys who couldn't have normal conversations anymore without thinking in terms of openers, routines, and closing techniques. They were losing their humanity. His old friend Dustin, the natural charmer, reappeared, but he'd undergone his own radical transformation. He'd given up women entirely and moved to Jerusalem to study at a religious school. He told Style he'd been trying to fill a spiritual void with women, and when that failed, he turned to God. Style stood at a crossroads. He examined his own existence. He was sleeping with more women than he'd ever imagined possible, yet he felt completely hollow. He'd mastered creating attraction, but not genuine connection. The game had given him confidence, but also made him cynical. Then he met Lisa, Courtney Love's guitarist. She was different. Strong, confident, and completely immune to his techniques. She wasn't impressed by Style, the pickup artist. She challenged him. She was, in game terminology, neg-proof. For the first time, Style had to be himself. Just Neil. He couldn't rely on his practice routines, and in doing that, he discovered something authentic. He realized the entire journey, the workshops, the gurus, the mansion, the drama, hadn't been about learning to become someone else. It had been about finding the confidence to be himself. The game was training wheels. It got him moving, but he couldn't keep them on forever. The book concludes with Neil Strauss walking away from Project Hollywood. The grand experiment had crashed and burned. The brotherhood had dissolved into bitter rivalries. But Neil had found what he was searching for, though it wasn't what he'd expected. He'd learned that to truly win the game, you have to stop playing it. So what do we actually take away from this wild story? It's tempting to dismiss the game as just a questionable manual for manipulating women. And honestly, parts of it are exactly that. But seeing it only through that lens misses the deeper, more interesting story Neil Strauss is really telling. At its core, this is a story about insecurity. It's about that deep fear of inadequacy that haunts so many people, especially young men, when they look in the mirror. The guys in this community weren't born with natural charisma or movie star confidence. They were the outsiders, the awkward ones, the invisible guys. So they did what intelligent, analytical people do when facing an unsolvable problem. They studied it obsessively. They deconstructed it, labeled every component, and built a system to overcome it. What they created is actually a fascinating lens for viewing human interaction. The concepts in this book, demonstrating value, peacocking, reading indicators of interest, these aren't just tricks. They're observations about the subconscious signals we all broadcast and receive constantly. We're all playing some version of this game. We're all trying to present our best selves, show our worth, win approval from others. The pickup artists just decided to be hyper-conscious and strategic about it. And for a while, it genuinely worked. Neil Strauss transforming into style proves that confidence isn't some magical trait you're born with. It's a skill you can develop. By repeatedly stepping outside his comfort zone, he literally rewired his brain and personality. But the story is equally a powerful warning. It shows what happens when you become so consumed by a system that you lose your humanity. The residents of Project Hollywood got so obsessed with the mechanics of attraction that they forgot how to have real relationships. They mastered the art of the pickup, but failed completely at connection. They could get the girl, but couldn't keep her, because relationships built on techniques rather than truth inevitably collapse. Mystery's heartbreaking breakdown symbolizes this failure perfectly. He had all the answers, but he was miserable. So what's the real lesson here? It's definitely not about memorizing pickup lines. The actual takeaway is understanding what genuinely makes people attractive, then authentically building those qualities within yourself. Here are a few practical things you can extract from this story right now. First, focus on your genuine value. The most powerful concept in the book is demonstrating higher value. But this doesn't mean learning card tricks. It means becoming a genuinely interesting person. Develop a real passion, master a skill, read widely, travel somewhere meaningful. When you have an exciting life that you genuinely love, you don't need to fake being interesting. You just are. Your authentic passion becomes your peacock feather. Second, overcome approach anxiety by starting small. The 3-second rule works because it short-circuits overthinking. You don't need to walk up to strangers with perfect opening lines. Start tiny. Just make eye contact and smile at people on the street. Ask your barista how their day's going. The goal isn't getting phone numbers. It's getting comfortable with the simple act of initiating human connection. And third, understand that attraction isn't a logical choice. This is one of the community's most repeated mantras, and it's basically true. People are naturally drawn to confidence, humor, passion, and status. You can't logic someone into liking you, but you can become the kind of person others naturally gravitate toward. And that journey of becoming your best self is infinitely more rewarding than memorizing 1,000 openers. That was a summary of The Game by Neil Strauss. We've explored the main arc of his incredible journey today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a country. The real magic happens when you actually visit. The book contains so many more fascinating stories, unforgettable characters, and intriguing psychological insights. This summary is just a starting point, helping you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've discussed today sparked your curiosity, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning techniques. It's an experience that might fundamentally shift how you see yourself and the world around you. You'll find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring ideas from the world's most influential books, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another transformative book. Let's keep learning and growing together.